Hello, hi, and welcome back to my channel. Now today, I am back making videos where I'm supposed to, this couch, and I want to talk about one specific thing. Gaming consoles. Now, there have been gaming consoles since the 80s and before. It's been around for a long time, but yet everybody always asks, what's the new feature? Why are we making this the new one? And, what does it have different from its predecessor? And there's always been some things different. The graphics have consistently gotten better. There's more online capabilities as the generations progress. There's a ton of stuff like that. But the question is, at what point do you have so many things in one box that there's nothing else to add? And if you were to add something, what would you add? That's the question that a lot of people have had, especially that the new Xbox Series X and PS5 has just recently released, to all of the bots taking them and only like 5 people getting one. I can't get a PS5, I really want one, but it's like impossible. I've given up until like next year. But seriously, like, what would you add in there? A lot of people, the PS5 and Xbox Series X's do have new features, but some of them don't work properly, and some of them aren't really that highly requested of things to have. So in this video, what I want to say is, what would I include in my own gaming console? Now, I want to make this thing stand a reasonable amount of time. Probably not, forever, because there's obviously going to be new technology in the future that I can't predict. But I want to make this thing pretty much a one-and-done console. So what would I have in this? Well, first off, I'd have a good disk drive. What I mean by that is, I don't want my console to be fully digital. There should be some downloadable games that are online, but for the most part, I would want it to be a disk drive first. So I would want to invest in a good one. Now, most consoles have okay disk drives. They're really not amazing, especially, when you pick it up and move something while there's a disk in there. Yeah, it can get pretty scratched up. For the most part, a PS4 disk drive is pretty good, so I would probably have something like that. Now, the capabilities of the system, would have to be a lot. First off, let me say something. I don't know what line of console this would be, Xbox or PlayStation, and in fact, I really don't care. It could be Nintendo for, whatever, but what I'm saying is, whatever line of console this would be in, make sure it's backwards compatible with as much of the previous library as possible, and not just the last console, where like the PS5 can run pretty much all PS4 games that anyone would ever want to run. It could run on there. But the thing is, there's only select PS2 and PS1 games, and PS3 games there's only like 2 or 3 because they're so hard to emulate or to get running on another console. So really, you only have the PS4's library plus whatever the PS5 has, which is fine, don't get me wrong, but what if you want to play a game from the PlayStation or PlayStation 2 era? And a lot of people say, yeah, let me spend, why would you spend, $500 on a thing just to play old games? And my answer to that is, a lot of people like old games. Whether it's something in a long-running series like Zelda or Mario, or if it's something more recent like Gears of War or something, or maybe even you want to play a sports game, which there are, for as many people saying, oh, each year is just a roster update. While that might be true of recent, older sports games are actually generally better than the newer ones. Maybe not in terms of graphics or player movement, but they have more stuff to do in them, and that's why a lot of people like the old ones. So I want to make as much as the library as possible. And I really don't understand why people can't do this. And I want to be able to do it where you can put the game disc in. Now, if it's a Nintendo thing, obviously you can't put cartridges in there because, that wouldn't work. But I would want to make them downloadable, and I want to have a thing where if you already own the game on a cartridge or disc, you shouldn't have to buy the digital one. There should be a code or something that you can use. Now, I don't know how that would be very effective in terms of sales or whatever, but that's my ideal system. Obviously, people would have to just respect that, and I don't think people would, but for me, it would work. Now, outside of backwards compatibility, there's more things that would be great in a console. First off, it should be able to run DVD and Blu-ray discs, which is something that I don't think the PS5 can do. I mean, it can run DVDs, but I don't know if it can run Blu-ray. I'm not positive about that. Don't take my word. That's just what I've read. There's so many conflicting things about that. I really don't know until I get my hands on one. Sony. Basically, what I'm saying is I want the thing to be able to run DVDs and Blu-rays so that you can use it as a movie player as well as just a console. But that should not be its major focus. That's the one big problem with Microsoft, is that they often cater to the casuals too often, and often use things that most gamers really wouldn't want. I'm looking at you, Kinect. And sure, you can have something like that, but it shouldn't be a major thing. It might have a few add-ons or special things like the Kinect, or, you know, having the capability to use your TV, to use your console to be able to watch cable if you have it or whatever, but, you know, YouTube TV, any of the downloadable stuff, but it shouldn't be the main focus. I also want the thing to have a very large storage space. I always hate it when you get a new game and you have to delete some of your old ones in order for it to fit on the console. I hate that. Now, I know that newer games have more storage space involved than older ones, but I just hate it that you can't, just plug it in the console and have it just work. You have to download it. Then what's the point of having a disc, you know? But that's, you know, whatever. I know that you have to do that now, so that's just, you know, how it works, but I still don't like it. Now, there's a lot of things that I would like to add in this, and I can't really speak for everything, but the backwards compatibility is a really big thing. I'd also want to have a good controller. Now, I have a lot of thoughts about controllers, and some of them are pretty unpopular, but, you know, I don't really mind most controllers, but I do prefer the Xbox's layout and the two sticks being up and down, opposed to the PS5 and PS4 being at the same time. I can get used to it, and I've used it before, but I prefer the Xboxes because I just think it's more comfortable to use. However, they do have the new curved design of the PS5, so maybe that'll be good. I won't know, because again, I don't have my hands on one. Sony. The controller's a really big thing. I want to make sure that it can be used for every game on the console, unless it's a retro game, in which case I'd want to have my own retro controller, something that's specifically designed like an NES controller or an SNES controller or something of that nature. Maybe even a joystick for some certain games, if the console can run them. Speaking of which, I'd want to have a really good data connection, or Wi-Fi connection, whatever you want to say there, because online gaming is very popular now, and even though I don't really particularly love it, I know a lot of people do, so I'd want to make sure that it has a solid connection, and that you don't have to be in, a metropolitan city like New York in order for it to be able to run games. Now, I know that there are some places where that's just not physically possible yet, and that sucks, but, you know, that's just kind of how it has to be for now. But in my ideal world, everybody could use online capability, and it would be pretty much as good the whole way around. Games on the console are arguably the most important part. And again, depending on what thing it is, Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo, I'd want to have a lot of first-party games. Now, first-party games are often the best on the consoles anyway, so that's not really much of a big deal. But for Microsoft, they really don't have a lot of party exclusives, and that kind of sucks. They have a few, Forza and Halo and Gears of War, but outside of those three, there's really not a whole lot. I'd want to have a lot of IPs that you can use a lot. If it's Nintendo, they don't have a problem with that. They got Metroid, there's so many things that they can use, within there. I want to make sure that each IP gets at least some attention on this console. Preferably 2 to 3 games. Especially since I want this to last a really long time, I want to make sure that each fans of Metroid or Super Mario or, you know, Gears of War, whatever it is, I want to make sure that the fans have games to play on there, but I also would like new IPs, because that's obviously what drives sales and would get you a lot of franchises for the future. So at the end of the day, my console, probably a pipe dream. Probably will never happen, and who knows, maybe it even can't happen, but I would like to think that it can, and one day it will. I really do like consoles, and I can't wait to get my hands on a PS5. Sony. I gotta wrap this up because my camera's dying, but I want to see what you guys would say. Comment down below what you want in your own console, and what kind of features you would like, what kind of games you would like, and just overall the layout of it. I didn't talk much about how it would be designed and how much the what the graphics would be in terms of how powerful they could be, or even the home screen, but that would be important too, and maybe for another video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked my ideas, leave a like and maybe even consider subscribing. And I'll see you all in the next episode. Goodbye!